Hey, what's going on YouTube? It is Nubia420 here, and today I'm going to show you guys how the math that I use to calculate my edible strength. Now, I get this question asked a lot. Everybody wants to know how many milligrams, how do I know how many milligrams, how do I know how to dose, and we're going to go over that today. Now, this video is going to be a bit longer than usual because not only am I going to show you how to calculate the strength of your edibles when you're just, dumping a certain value of weed into it, but I'm also going to show you how to figure out how much weed to use to reach a specific strength in your final product. Now, for today's example, we're going to use some Cherry Star number 10 from a local dispensary here, and you can see it is 18.47%. So in order to really calculate your strength, you have to know what you're starting with. You can guess or guesstimate, they say. Anything on the black market is usually going to be about 15%. If you're using Keef, you could assume maybe 30%, 20%. It really depends on what you're working with. And you're going to need a calculator. This is what my phone is here for. All of you folks out there with your fancy iPhones and your, Galaxy S10s, you can absolutely do all the math you need to for this right on your calculator, on your phones, because I have a Motorola G7 or something, and it does it. So first, we know that we have, the weed that we have is 18.47%, okay? Now, math is not my strong suit, but I'm going to try to do it anyway. Alright, now we have, or had, an eighth of this. So an eighth is 3.5 grams. So 3.5 grams. And also, my handwriting is not the best, so y'all just bear with me. Alright, let me move that out the way. So this is ultimately how much our final product can be. We only have 3.5 grams to work with, and it's coming in at 18.47%. Now, what does 18.47% mean? It means that in 1 gram of cannabis flower, of this Cherry Star number 10 flower, I put those on there to make it easier, you have 184.7 milligrams of THC. That's what that means. Now, how do we get to that number? You can either take your percent, 18.47%, and you can move the decimal place 2 spots. And it would give you 0.1847. You will take that number and you would times by 1,000 milligrams, because there's 1,000 milligrams in a gram, and then that would equal 184.7. So 184.7 milligrams per gram. Alright, now that's in 1 gram. We have 3.5. So if we took that whole thing and we decarbed it, and then we infuse, say, a half a cup of oil with it, because the recipe calls for half a cup of oil, what would that batch look like? So let's say our brownies call for half a cup of oil. We have 3.5 grams. Let's just infuse the whole thing. We just want to infuse the whole thing. So we're going to take our 184. So that's our number. So 184.7 milligrams. And we're going to times it by 3.5 grams, because that's how much we're going to use. And you end up with, I could do it right on here, because math is not my ministry. 184.7 times 3.5 equals 646.45 milligrams. So if we just took all of our cherry star number 10 and we ground it up and we decarbed it and then we infused it into our oil, the maximum amount of THC that the brownies could have, let's say we're making brownies, the brownies could have is 646.45. That's the most basic of edible strains explanations that you can get. Now, that's assuming we have a 100% infusion rate. We don't. Infusion rates vary depending on what oil you're using. So butter has its own rate. I believe it's around 80%, like 75 to 80. I know coconut oil, I believe, is about 80%. Everclear, if you're making a tincture, has the highest infusion rate that is commercially available, and that's at 95%. So when you're infusing with Everclear, you're getting everything pretty much that the plant has to offer. Now, we'll swing back to infusion rates a little bit later. But let's say you want to make a batch of brownies and you want them to be 300 milligrams. You want the entire batch of brownies to be 300 milligrams because you get 6 brownies out of a batch, and you want each brownie to be 50 milligrams each. Alright, so this is, now we're going to show you how to know how much flour to use from the beginning. Alright, so let's see. So we're making brownies. I'm just writing down all the things I just said. So we have 6 each. We want them at 50 milligrams each. And of course, you would just times here to figure out how much you need. So 6 times 50 equals 300. So altogether, we need to make an infusion with 300 milligrams. That's how much we want our brownies to be. Alright? Now, how can we work backwards to figure out how much flour to use of our 3.5 grams? So this is how I set it up. I'm not saying it's perfect. I'm not saying it's the only way that you can do it. I'm saying this is how I do it. And it works for the most part. So we have 300 milligrams. This is what we want to end with. I put that over 1. You just do. You just put that over 1. We have over here our per gram. So we have 184.7 milligrams per 1 gram. Which means that we're going to divide 300 by 184. So 300 divided by 184.7 equals 1.6242, yeah, we'll say 1.63 grams. Now, if I want to make a batch of brownies and I only want to infuse enough oil to use in this one batch, that's it. I only want to infuse a half a cup of oil because I only want that. We're going to use 1.63 grams of bud to get to our 300 milligrams. So that's great because now you still have some weed left to smoke. Or infuse in something else later on. Like, you know, a lot of people, you guys, I know that you don't want a pound or 2 pounds of butter just sitting in your freezer, or you don't want 3 cups of coconut oil just, you know, sitting on your countertop. We do, but other people don't. You know, it might just be for one special event and that's it. You might have kids in the house. You can have all sort of things that you don't want a lot of infused items just kind of laying around. So this is a way to just do it by batch and to not waste. Like, you know, you're not going to have a lot of waste here, but you will need a scale that goes to the 100th in order to get it. Now, if of course you don't have a scale that goes to 100, you can certainly just round up. Maybe it only goes to the 10th. Maybe it is just a whole gram integer. That's it. So just do 2 grams and call it a day. One of the other things is that we're assuming with this 1.63 that we have 100% infusion rates when we know that we don't. We only have 80% infusion rates, which means we're going to have about a 20% loss because we always use coconut oil. I love it. It's the most versatile infusion medium that you can use, in my opinion, next to Everclear. So we'll take this 1.6 and let's account for our 20% loss, right? We're going to times that by 0.20 because this is what we're going to lose. 20% is 0.20. So let's do 1.63 times 0.20. It equals 0.326. So we'll say 0.33. Let's come down and add that 0.33 to our 1.63. And it should be 1.96, but I'll show you guys just because. 1.96. So that's how many grams we would need, or 2 grams. This is how many grams we would need to calculate to infuse into coconut oil to get our 300 milligram strength. So 1.96 grams. And that's it. That's our final number, considering an 80% infusion rate in coconut oil. Now, if you don't care about, you know, really splitting hairs here, oh, it doesn't matter, then just go with that. This is just an added step, counting for losses that you don't really necessarily have to do, especially if you're a home baker. Now, if you guys are out here, you know, putting together packaging, selling it on the black market, you should absolutely do the math to make sure people know what they're getting. If you're out here spraying distillate on stuff and just hoping that it hits, shame on you. You are everything that's wrong with the black market. So let me know if you have any questions. Again, I am not a mathematician. I took the minimum math requirements that my college said I had to take to graduate, and we call that a day. But I do know a little bit of cannabis math. So let me know if you guys have any questions. It's really simple. Just take your units with you. It helps to make sure that what you get at the end is the correct thing. So again, I know this is like already longer than I really wanted it to be, but let's just do a really quick review here. So when we're calculating our edible strength, right, you have to know what you're starting with. So that was our 18.47%, and we had 1/8 of it, or 3.5 grams. If you don't know the percent of what you're starting with, guesstimate. Assume probably about 15%. Now, there is a chance that you will be wildly inaccurate, especially if you got some really fire stuff. but you could just guess 15 to 20%. Of 20 is a bit on the higher side. When you do it, you have to figure out your grams. How many milligrams do I have per gram? That is the very first step. If you don't have that, you won't be able to do any of the other steps. It all builds on each other, okay? So for our percent, we know that we can times it by 1,000, and that's how we're going to get how many milligrams we have per gram. Once we have our milligrams per gram, we go ahead and we times that by the total number of grams that we have. That gives us our total grams in the entire thing. If we were to just take this eighth and infuse it, that's exactly what we would get, 646.45 milligrams. Now, that's using the entire thing. That's assuming a 100% infusion rate. But let's say we have a batch that we want to be a specific strength. So we want it to be 300 milligrams. 600 is just too high for us. You know, we just a couple of lightweights eating 50 milligram brownies. You're not a lightweight if you're eating a 50 milligram brownie. That was a joke, you guys. So we want to take a batch and make 6 brownies, and we want them to be 50 milligrams each. We need 300 milligrams in our infused oil. In order to get the 300 milligrams, we're going to throw that over a 1 to make it a fraction. And then we'll go, and we know we have 1 gram. And in our 1 gram, we have 184.7 milligrams. So we're going to divide our total number of milligrams that we want by the number of milligrams per gram that we have. And we end up with 1.63 grams. That's how much cannabis we have to use to get 300 milligrams in our total batch of brownies. Now and again, that's accounting for a 100% infusion rate, but we know that that is not so. We know that coconut oil only has about an 80% infusion rate, which means we're going to have a 20% loss. So to account for our 20% loss, we have our grams that we got at 100%, and we times it by 0.20 to get what we're going to lose. We circle back and we add what we're going to lose to how many grams we need at 100%. So we add our 1.63 plus 0.33, and we end up with 1.96 grams. Now 1.96 grams will get us to our 300 milligrams, including taking into account that we only have an 80% infusion rate. Makes sense, right? See, it's not that hard at all. And there are some calculators online that you can use that'll give you the same thing. Again, let me know if you guys have any questions. But again, I am also not a mathematician. And stay safe. And I hope that everyone is having a good day. Peace.